Tim Grover clearly does not like to be number 2 because he has 13 number 1s. Good morning. I'm John Perry, the Reach Architect, together with
Derek Agerberg, the Approval Coach. Good morning.
And this is the Mastermind Library, where we rapidly like to get other perspectives upon some great books of knowledge so that we can increase our own knowledge and viability and grow in this world. And the book this morning is Relentless by Tim Grover.
Great book. So I know when you say type A, high D personality versus a S and C, this book very much written for the type A, high D personality. So let's get this out of the way for the Mastermind Library. Is it top shelf? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Mine, this is a top shelf book. This is one of my top 13. John, where does it fall for you?
I think it's a third shelf,
shelf,
or maybe a second shelf, but I'm pretty sure it's a third shelf. I'm just too sensitive.
You are a very sensitive guy.
I am.
So, but again, it's not to add or detract. It's just some personalities gravitate to it more, some don't. So top 13 for me, partly because it's, look, I just want to know what the mindset is, and let's get after it. You like the story, and you like the fictitiously weaved through metaphor, like with, and how are you saying, like Andy Andrews style?
It doesn't always have to be that way. I can still get a lot of good nuggets out of him. I just don't have to dial the intensity up to a 12, way past 11. It's at a 12. And I see more than just the scope of the book. I understand that he's trying to display the Mamba mentality or the winning at all costs mentality, and that's not how I want to play the game. And so I can see that this is a direct line for those people. It's just not necessarily my direct line for how I want to achieve what I deem as successful. I'm not going to have 6 rings. I'm not going to have 1 ring. I'm going to be in the stands watching the game play sometimes, and that's okay with me.
See, here's and I love the perspective. John, how many companies do you own?
3.
Okay, so what do you mean you're not going to have 6 rings? You have 3 companies that you're running with employees in all 3. So it's that, and what I love about how Tim mentioned it is it's the janitor. It's the guy, as when he identifies 3 main types of people, and he calls them his coolers, his closer, and his cleaner. And the cleaner as the top guy, the Michael Jordan, the Kobe Bryant, the person who just cleans up other people's messes, doesn't have to talk about it, doesn't even need to call attention to himself or herself, just shush up and do it. What's interesting is, John, you're running 3 companies. So when you say you're not going to have 6 rings, you got half that many rings when it comes to your environment. And so I think for me, I saw a lot of everybody should be taking away the tools and tips in the book, because everybody has something that they need to be excellent at, whether is it print? Is it mortgage? Is it insurance? Is it being a firefighter? Is it being a school teacher? Everybody needs to, or should be, the absolute best of the best if they want to practice at it daily. And you've seen online some of the videos where the Kobe Bryant work ethic, where there's a reporter that gets the chance to interview Kobe, and Kobe says, be at the gym at X time. And he wasn't really sure if that was morning or evening. But he then figured out it was morning, so he was going to beat Kobe to the gym. So he showed up 30 minutes or 45 minutes earlier than the time, but the lights were already on and Kobe was already in the gym, sweaty and already, well into his workout. Nobody knew, or at least I didn't as a fan watching these, that those are the kind of work ethics that some of these people have. And so, you go back to that janitor, the story that Tim mentions. the janitor's working on cleaning and doing everything quietly, without any fanfare, just doing his job or her job to the best of their ability. But I love the analogy that the janitor, the cleaner, has the keys to every room, can go in and out unobstructed, but just doesn't need to call attention to themselves, just does the job and cleans up other people's messes. So I really enjoyed this book. This is probably the 4th time we've read it. Now, I know you brushed up on it. Did you take anything new away from this, the last reading?
I think, again, putting it in context with other things, one of the things he talks about is, the cleaner just does it, which kind of lines the way that it is with Colin Powell's 40-70 rule, which I really like. Colin Powell has said that he won't make a decision unless he has at least 40% of the information. He will make the decision before he gets 70% of the information, because at 40% you just don't have enough to do anything constructive. And at 70, you pretty much know which way you're going to go. You're just kind of hoping for extra validation or something. You're kind of stalling for time. So that's time that could be critically used in other areas. He says that cleaners typically will make the decision and go forward with it. Now, I don't doubt that most of his cleaners do it with 40 to 45% of the information that are given. They're not waiting even to the 70% mark. They're just getting enough to just assess the information and go. And so that was one of his number ones that I've taken into a slightly different perspective and can agree upon in that manner.
You said something, one of his number ones.
Yes.
When he gives you a list, everything is number one.
Everything is number one.
There isn't anything that is more or less important. It's all there. And I love that when you say, man, how many times do I make lists? And 1 through 15, well, I didn't get to 14 or 15 because they were farther down the list. No. They're all important. They're all number ones. Now, we've used the words cooler, cleaner, closer. What do those 3 things stand for according to Tim?
Using, again, a sports analogy, a cooler could have a good game. A closer could have a great season, maybe even be an all-star. A cleaner is the guy who gets 3, 4, 5, 6 rings. He uses Michael Jordan, who you can almost argue, did he make Michael Jordan or did Michael Jordan make him, as an argument in the profession. He uses Kobe Bryant. He uses Dwayne Wade. Mm-hmm. He references Steve Kerr. He's worked with a lot of sports athletes, a lot of basketball players. He names drops liberally throughout. And those stories do make, again, it doesn't have to be fictitious. Those stories do help
so there's
back
the
up.
Story.
That they do back up certain points. They help visualize a principle.
So he talks a lot about the just chasing it relentlessly, no pun on the title. But he went to college and got his degree, and his family was going to ask, do you want to be a fitness instructor? Are you going to be a trainer? Are you going to run a gym? And he says, no, I'm going to train pro athletes. Mm-hmm. And that had never been done that way before. No. And so part of his kill or be killed mentality was he was going to do this at all costs. And like you say, he went to go work with Michael Jordan, and that turned into this symbiotic relationship that, as you say, did Michael make him? Did he make Michael? Did they both really, the synergy between the two push them to that greatness? And I love listening to some of the stories that happen throughout seasons and pivotal points of maybe it's a note, maybe it's a mindset. And a lot of it is, it's amazing that it's mindset. It's not, and it is, don't get me wrong, it is the physicalness and the training, because he talks a lot about making guys sweat and throw up in the trash cans and giving up sugar and having the headache behind the eyes. But it's that mindset of, and he uses the lion analogy where
later on, yes,
a lion is just a lion, and a lion is going to go out, hunt what it wants, kill what it wants, and then go back to just being a lion, wait until the next time. And so this is the first book that I've ever read or heard that talked about that killer instinct and the dark side. And there's a lot of dark stuff in the book. Now, was that eye-opening to you, or was that a turnoff to you, seeing that side of the champion?
It's information that I know of. Most of the stuff he talks about is in the public eye as far as the dark side and having it there. It's not something that I personally, the actions are morally not my flavor of life. It's not something that I would aspire to do. It's not the secret type of life that I would choose to keep. And yet these scandals, these instances, they are out there. They've been out there for decades. Most of them involve infidelity. Wilt Chamber has slept with I don't know how many women. Saturday Night Live had a great sketch upon it one day where he had a diary. He's like, I think, today I'm going to write about number 975, but to me she'll always be 322.
I don't remember that one.
But there are other stars where they name drop stuff. There's points where everyone knows that Michael has his personality when he ran the Bulls. As The Last Dance was a great show that actually showed a lot of these things. The book talks about a story where he made a comment to a big man on his team in a championship game, and the guy just completely shut down mentally, had one of the worst games of his postseason career because his leader didn't lead him. He denounced him and just put him down. And that is an example that Tim used to make a distinction between how Michael chose to be a cleaner and how Kobe ended up choosing to be a cleaner, where you don't have to always build them up. You don't always have to break them down. Michael chose to just carry it. You come on my team, I just need 4 bodies to be legal and play this game. I'm going to win it by myself. Kobe tried to expand that and actually have them be more in place, to be the chess master, if you will, to play a different game. Because the game had evolved from the Michael era to the Kobe era to what it is now. There's a lot more three-pointers in the NBA now than there has ever been. And
yet you go back to the Larry Bird story that he talked about, and that's kind of our era growing up. You watch Larry Bird do the three-point contest with his warm-up jacket on, and that level of cleaner in that day was just the mental. I love it when Tim talks about how in the locker room, he said, Larry Bird said, all right, guys, who's coming in number 2? Yeah, there wasn't even a doubt in his mind, and yet his whole job is to plant seeds of doubt in everybody else.
The audacity he had is absolutely crazy, and I love hearing the stories about Larry Bird, about him being one of the dirtiest trash talkers in the game, because he doesn't come across, he seems so unassuming, so quiet, and yet he is an absolute savage on the court. Hearing the Magic and Larry stories, not in this book at all, and I don't want to get off too much on a tangent. It's just a very fascinating time. Yet strategically, the three-pointer then was not nearly utilized as a weapon as it is in today. The game has evolved from the Showtime Lakers to the Chicago Bulls to the Kobe Lakers to what it is now, and it's not the same game, yet it's the same game. Yeah. This book, though, uses that as a great backdrop, though, for his 13 number 1 principles. And although he didn't prioritize them, he gave us kind of an idea of priority, because he still had them in a order of, this is the one I'm going to, you can read them all at any time, yet these are the ones I'm going to present first, and these are the ones I'm going to present last.
And yet, here's what gets me is, why don't we talk more about, and some of the books that you and I have gravitated to, it's the principles. It's, Andy Andrews talks about, here's the 7 principles that work all the time, whether you know they're in play or not, they're always working for you. His 13 principles, his 13 things that we need to do, not numbered 1 through 13, but numbered 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. And yet sometimes it takes that punch in the face, whether it's reading a book, or he talks about the Steve Kerr days.
Literally a punch in the face.
Literally. And, sometimes we need to see how people react, and I'm not saying go punch your staff in the face, but see how people react to that pressure. And so he talks about the story that the one time MJ punched Steve Kerr in the face, and then, Steve went in there and continued playing, and Michael called him back and apologized. And from then he knew that Steve would go to battle and go to war with him. And doing a little bit of research, you can see those things evolve. And Steve actually says that was one of the greatest times in his life because that changed where he went. And that allowed him to go be a leader elsewhere and things like that. So, I mean, again, it's those pivotal moments that a cooler is going to sit around the water cooler and just talk about how hard it was or how great it was or how good I used to be, and skip over the closer to the cleaner. Cleaner just shuts up, cleans it up, fixes it, and moves on. Doesn't need any fanfare, but he's going to remember what needs to happen next time. And that's kind of the takeaway for me in the book, is that pivotal moment of the punch in the face and how do you react. Here we are. Is it a good time economically in the U.S.?
It is a fascinating time economically. It could be good for some people, it could be bad for some other people.
So we're talking about inflation, we're talking about unemployment, things like that. But it's how you react to those things.
Yes.
And are you going to react like he says, a cooler? Are you going to be a closer? Are you going to step up your game and just be a cleaner and no matter what, take care of it? So again, a lot of good life skills. You don't have to be a pro athlete in my book for the book. But I appreciate Tim actually spending the time to put this in writing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, most people, and I could be wrong, but I think most people played some sort of sport, whether it was peewee soccer or little league baseball or football in high school or track or swimming or any of the other types of sports. So they've had some level of training or conditioning. And it's definitely not at the level of a pro NBA player, but I think that most of us can recall some aspect of that training and having to push through something and having to persevere when we didn't want to do it. And I think that, again, some of his stories and backdrops to some of these things and these challenges helps frame why his principles are valid and why they can apply just beyond the sports world.
So when you first read the book, very first time through, and it was a heavy sports book, a lot of dark stuff on the backside, how did you take it the first time compared to reading it for, I don't know, fourth, fifth time now?
The first time I physically read the book, and I thought it was interesting. I did like the Showtime Lakers and right into the first round of Michael Jordan era with the Bulls and the Pistons to the Bulls. And I was a big NBA fan at the time, and so it was really interesting reading those stories. And I think that those stories is what helped get me through it. I thought that there were some good points. I thought that, again, it was a little intense, and I still think it's intense. I don't know if I have that level of intensity, and I don't know if that's the right word. It just seems dialed up to a 12, and I am not the person who likes to be in your face, to go over the top, to go a little crazy or a little bit deep dive. I can be hyper focused. I can what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me after this thing's over.
What's ironic is I think it's easy to see it in other people. You go back to the Larry Bird. Mm-hmm. You and I as spectators didn't know Larry was anything other than the nice guy playing the game. I'm physical. Don't get me wrong. Very physical.
Very physical.
But you never heard about the trash talking when you and I were watching, Kareem and Magic and Parrish and all those guys on the court. Mm-hmm. You just saw the Lakers and the Celtics, and it was a fun show. But now you see that killer instinct. And again, I'm going to go back to, John, you're running 3 companies, for crying out loud. You can sit here and pretend you're the nice guy and the good guy, but you've fired, you've changed contracts, you've had to rearrange things with equipment, you've played the game at a level that most people have never played the game at in your industry, but you don't want to seem like you've got the dark side. You don't want to seem like you have that intensity as you describe it. But I think it's easy to see it in other people, but we don't really. Does anybody want to admit that they have those dark killer instincts?
I probably have a dark side. I probably have a certain level of intensity. I'm not denying that. I don't think my dark side manifests in the same way that the dark side that is portrayed in the majority of the people in the book manifests. Yeah. And I think that that's part of my reasoning or logic is because I don't step out on my wife. I don't get overly physical. And those are two things that in the books they emphasize as part of being a part of your dark side. Well, I'm not intentionally mean to people where I chew them up and spit them out.
Those couple, though, he talks about some people drink, some people gamble, some people could speed and drive fast. It's that chase and the rush. I know you like, comic and artwork and things like that. Have you spent money on a chasing of a piece of artwork or a comic or something like that you could have invested that back in the business?
Absolutely.
So there again, it's that.
But I don't think that's as private. And that's the dark side, again, he wants to keep it shrouded. He wants it private. That's part of what makes him that, because he says that the dark side shrivels in the light of day. That's when a scandal happens, and you see how these people are. He said that he didn't want somebody to be apologetic for their actions because that's what made him the killer instinct. That's what gave him this edge over the people. My art collection is on the walls in my office where I proudly show it for anybody who can walk through my doors because it is something completely different than what you would see in this town.
And I'm saying that's kind of your chase. That's what drives you. You're in business for that. So, if you need to make $10 more to help fund that versus are you stressing to put $10 more into your kids' 529 plan for their college, my gut tells me is you have a lot of enthusiasm for that next piece of artwork. We'll get to this over here.
And that's one reason why we do this, because that is a perspective I didn't consider before when analyzing this dark side. If it's in that vein, then I can concede that, I have a dark side. It's just under light. It's not quite in the vein, but
not
it is
quite.
And it's a different perspective. And so there's a growth moment right now for me, because I can concede that would be a driving motivator for doing some of the things I do. The intensity I talk about, maybe it's because years ago I was on a jury, and while I still had a couple of companies. And the thing about having a couple of companies is I can switch hats at a given moment and switch from doing role A in this one to role B in this one and role C to this one at the flip of a switch, because I manage my own time. On jury duty, I had to check in the morning, I had half an hour for lunch, and I had another long afternoon. I have a lot of respect to people who have two jobs in two different locations and have to do it two different ways, because juggling over that month, it was a murder trial, juggling over that month, coming into my office early to try to get that stuff set up, going to jury, checking in with the office over lunch break, jury duty, and then coming into the office at the end of the day to wrap up more stuff. That is challenging and of itself.
But that had to drive you crazy, following the rules and having to sit and do exactly what you're told, as opposed to, in your world,
the freedom to do what I do.
Right. So you straddle the line between, you're a closer for the most part, and then you have flashes of cleaner isms.
Yes.
And again, what I guess took away from the book is you can see almost everybody in here, and everybody has flashes of it. It's just a matter of, do you want to stoke those flames? Do you want to really build upon that? And look, some people are just happy punching the clock, start to finish. And if that's what you want, great, then the book probably isn't for you. But if you want to grow, and we've read a lot of growth books with the Mastermind Library, there's lots of mental growth paths.
Yes.
This is one that is, look, if you want to grow, there's a mental killer instinct that you need to have as well. No, none of us are going to be Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. I mean, no matter how much I wanted to be Larry Bird or Magic Johnson back in the day, I would have been, Worthy or Cooper, for crying out loud, on the Lakers. No matter how much I wanted to be like those guys, I was never going to play the game that well. And I sat outside and shot three-pointers and practiced all the time. Just didn't get there. But you can see that everybody, whether it's in the mortgage space, the print space, the design space, the real estate space, you have the ability to get there and elevate your game. You might need a trainer. And so
yes,
what I appreciate about Tim is, he's the physical trainer, but I think he's as or more so the mental trainer for these guys, keeping their mindset in check. And he talks about one person who literally flew across the country, but they didn't do any ice baths. They didn't do any working out. It was literally just talking and getting the mindset right to go back and compete. And for me, that's what I appreciate most is, look, this isn't motivating me to work out anymore, although I probably should. This is a mental workout to go, wow, I can see where John Perry's a cleaner versus a closer. I wonder if the same thing happens here, and you really dig into, okay, what needs to be elevated to be more of a cleaner?
Good points to have.
So is that point one or point one
or
point one? So, and again, I love that fact that, look, I've been told to put lists together forever, whether it's the old Day Runner, the journals, the Franklin Covey planners, here's the lists and identify things. Nobody's ever said, put a bullet point and make them all the same. Nobody's ever said, list them all number one because they're all important. It's always been, come up with a list. Man, I look back for the last 25 years, how many times did I get to number one or two or three, or pick the one or two or three that I like out of the list and unprioritize the other ones? No. If they're on the list, they're on the list. Get them all done.
Get them done.
So,
and if you can't get them done today, move them to the top of the list tomorrow.
Or the list for tomorrow, not even the top. And that's why I say the mindset of, okay, the killer mentality of watching, and I guess maybe as a basketball fan, understanding some of the psychological things that Michael Jordan did and Kobe Bryant did and Dwayne Wade did, and the growth and just that, man, these guys are intense. And I know you don't like that word per se.
Well, it's not the intensity of it. It's when there's a level of tension that borderlines on. And again, he says you don't have to be nice, and I'm not disagreeing. There are times where you don't have to be nice. There's lack of tact. There's lack of civility. I remember reading about the Dream Team, and Michael Jordan was playing against the Dream Team, and was playing against another country. And on that country, there was a player who also plays on the Bulls with Michael Jordan. He says, on the first play, I'm going to run right through that guy. And he did. Very first play, ran right through this guy. And I think it was the first game at the Olympics for the Dream Team. And it kind of set the tone for the whole way. Because if this is his teammate, a guy he actually likes, and he did this to him, what's that saying for the other random people? That's an amazing head game. That's a fantastic chess move. I don't know if I would want to make a move such as that in my career. I don't know if I want to drop some knowledge out there or frame a situation that would play the mind games in my industry the way that he plays in that one. And because it wouldn't be hard to do. We all are flawed creatures. We all have things we can grow. We all have made mistakes in the past.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying everybody has this dark side and we're flawed and we do make the mistakes, yet there's a lot of people who don't want to admit them, don't want to realize?
The thing is, we all have them. I will freely admit a lot of them myself, because it's very humbling to recall the times where I messed up and to show that I am human. And I don't mind that. The main thing is having somebody else point out something to me that I would freely, in a way that is demeaning or less, somebody saying that the quality of work we do isn't as professional, or that, we don't qualify as a design company because of X, Y, or Z thing, or, so there's those aspects of it that I don't necessarily feel the need to play to, against them. If I know of certain things, there's no need to parade that when they do amazing work too.
And yet, for everybody's benefit, what you literally just said is you don't have to talk about it. You're going to go play your game,
yes,
no matter what, which is his definition of the cleaner is you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to go be vocal about it. You just have to shush up and do it and know your work stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, what I appreciate about the book is, we've heard the term from good to great, and that was a really intense book.
It was a really dry book.
And when you say from good to great to unstoppable, man, the guys that he talks about in the book are legitimately all unstoppable. And
legends.
Yeah, and yet, look, they lost. There's lots of losing games. It's not that they won 100% of the time.
No.
The unstoppableness is, are you willing to run through your analogy? Are you willing to run through the competition? Are you willing to run through the obstacles? And are you going to win more than you lose? And when you lose, are you going to get up and figure out how to fight through the pain or the stress or the struggles?
The one thing I can't appreciate about him in this book is, as a trainer, and then again, this is also equal endorsement for if you're in business, get a coach, find a mentor. Because he mentioned that when something happened with Kobe during a training, he caught something. He caught that Kobe did a turnover. Nobody else would have caught this in the same way. And he goes, dang, I messed up. I did not prepare him for this scenario. This is on me. He took accountability for this one instance. Because he didn't prepare Kobe coming back from whatever this training was for him to come back from, that he didn't take into consideration this type of scenario, and Kobe couldn't react to it in the way that was beneficial to Kobe. So I can appreciate that he took accountability for himself and the mistakes he made, and he said that he's going to learn. The main thing is he's not going to stop doing stuff. He is not going to just rest on his laurels and I look at what I accomplished with who I accomplished it with. How are you going to question me? Mm-hmm. No, he's going to make people do the work. He's also doing the work, though, to make sure that they are at the peak of their whatever they can be. So get a coach.
So get a coach, but have a coach who is willing to grow alongside
with you.
And that, again, I love that story where he's talking about his growth, his accountability, and his willing to admit the mistake and go not make it a second time. Again, really a great book.
It is a good book.
There's a lot of concepts in there that we all need to implement if we choose to. You might debate whether it's good or bad to embrace the dark side or not, whether you can be that intense. But it's so funny that we all sit on the couch on a Saturday or Sunday and watch the game. We all want to go to the stadium and yell and scream for our heroes on the field, if you will, or on the court. Yet, do we understand the amount of work that goes in beyond the 90 minutes that we're watching? And I don't think many people realize the amount of work and the intensity level that some of these guys have gone through.
Yeah, because I'll end it with this one around my round of comments. There's a lot of people in the book that towards the end that he talks about that, do you want to have, ultimately it's their choices. Do you want to have an extra year? Do you want to have an extra 5 years? Do you want to sacrifice a little for the next 5 years, knowing that these are problems that may persist in 10 or 15 years physically to you? What are you willing to give up in the short term for the long term, or what are you willing to give up in the long term to push through something in the short term? those are questions I think everybody has in business, and we all have to make those decisions, whether they are short-term beneficial, long-term detrimental, vice versa. Very rarely do we have a win-win-win-win scenario. We have to figure out what is most important and prioritize that as number one of ones and go after it.
And it's interesting the way you phrase that, because when you say the win-win-win, are you looking short, mid, long term? If you have a lot of physical ailments and you're in pain for the next 20 years after the career, let's say, and I don't have any knowledge of this, but let's say Michael Jordan is physically in pain. Magic Johnson is physically in pain now for having a long, successful career. Do they mentally look back at it and go, dang, I did that? Or do they go, man, I really wish I wouldn't have done that. My knees are killing me. My guess is all of those cleaners love the fact that they've done that, and they've accepted the fact that, you look at Kobe Bryant's finger. He had a finger that would go any which way just because, and he's willing to deal with that just because of the love of the competition in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I would submit that they don't view it as I'm winning here for losing here. It's all part and parcel to the same thing, because they want to look back when they're 95 years old, go, dude, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And their record stands for themselves, not unlike, any of the greats. And sometimes they're willing to sacrifice. We see it as a sacrifice. They don't. You look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady drinks nothing but water,
mm-hmm.
Has his water, is not getting off of his regimen because he has a different level of accountability to himself. Not to say you can't go have a lot to drink, but that one day off his schedule, you and I might be like, it's one day. And he may say, but that puts me 45 days behind because I got to go redo X.
Mm-hmm.
So again, some of the stories that are even not in the book that you can pay attention to and see what's happening out in the marketplace. Love the fact that Tim Grover put the book together. Love the fact that this is probably the fourth, fifth time I've read and or listened to the book. Do you like reading the book, or do you like listening to Tim better as the author?
Tim's not the narrator of the book.
I should say listening to the author read in
I like the
fluctuations.
I like the narrator of the book. The latest edition has on Audible has in between chapters like a sit down with his
Dialogue.
agent
Mm-hmm.
about the chapter coming up, and Tim's got a really interesting voice. It's a little raspy. It's a cool voice. I like his voice. I don't know if...
But that's what I'm saying. Did that add to the book?
It didn't really add to the book,
Okay.
because I've listened to it so many times, maybe because we've talked about it before, maybe because I have some different perspectives on it. It just doesn't add a ton to it for me. It's a good book, though. I like the convenience of Audible and the Car University mentality of it all.
So
and
you have both,
I have
written
both.
and audio.
And I try to have a physical copy, because the physical one for me makes a great reference. It's very difficult to rapidly find something on the audio version, whereas I could quickly flip through some pages and be like, here, this is where it's at. I can highlight things. I can pull stuff out quickly and easily. For digesting, I like the audio. For referencing, and I reference my library, I like the physical. So I usually have both on hand.
Okay. So, part of it is the Mastermind Library. We have our shelves and
Yes.
where we believe that fits within the shelf. But there's also a level too, because it's not just the shelf.
Yes.
If you talked about mindset and drive and growth, is this a great book to go pick up?
I think it would be. I would recommend this book to people. Absolutely. It's a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up from me to read it. I think that just because it's not, made cookie cutter perfect into my world doesn't mean I can't get value from it. And I did. And I think that other people will equally get value from it as well. If you're a basketball fan from the 90s to the early 2000s, I think you'll be fascinated by the stories that are brought into play in the book. And so I would recommend it. You?
I think the best way to put it is the top 13 shelf better never, ever get dusty. This is one of those books that's never going to get dusty on my perspective. I would strongly suggest everybody get a copy of it and read it at least once. But I think if you take away the, man, I don't want to be that dark, or man, this is a little beyond my comfort zone, you can see that in everybody, whether it's the underwriter here in my office. You know, she needs to be a cleaner as an underwriter and be the one who mama bears that thing all the way through, and she's not going to need anything from anybody. Whether you're the graphic designer within your shop, you want them to be the person who's in control of it, and they don't need to dish that ball to anybody else. They want to run with it. So I would strongly suggest everybody go get a copy, one of my top 13, and I'm so appreciative of Tim for writing the book.
Yeah. Now, we'd love to hear back from you, so drop us a line, email. If there's a place to do comments below, comment below. We'd love to get your perspective on the book as well, so that we can see exactly other ways of viewing it. What did you enjoy about this book? What would you have questions about? Is there something else out there that he references that you want to bring to light? Leave a message below or drop us a line at mmlibrary.com and let us know. But yeah, thank you for joining us today. I'm John Perry, the Reach Architect.
And I'm Derek Egeberg, the Approval Coach. Have a great day, everyone. Look forward to your comments below.
Bye for now.